Harihi Om Gananantva Ganapati Gumhavamahe Kavim Kavenamupamasravastamam Jyeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspatha Anashyanvanno Debesida Sadanam Prano Devi Saraswati Vaje Virmajinivati Dhenama Mitrayavatho Ganeshaya Namaha Saraswatyai Namaha Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Gurave Sarva Lokanam Visaje Babaroginaha Nidaye Sarva Vidyanam Sri Dakshinamurthaye Namaha Harihi Om Tat Sat Sri Sai Ishwararpanamastu Ramanuja Daya Patram Jnana Vairagya Bhushanam Srimat Venkatanarthayam Valde Vedanta Deshikam Sadashiva Samaramba Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Parampara. Harihi Om Tat Sat Sri Narayanarpanamastu. Astika. Namo Namaha. Suswagatam. Good morning. Welcome to week 9 as we draw nearer to the close of the destination which we had started 9 weeks ago. A wonderful journey into the realm of Bhaja Govindam, or Sikh Govinda as it is known. So we're up to week 9. We finished 25 verses so far. Today we're looking at 26, 27, 28. And next week, which will be the final concluding week, we will look at verses 29, 30, and 31, thereby bringing a beautiful journey together to an apt closure, right? The only thing I desire is people have taken at least 10% on board, and out of that 10%, at least put into practice 5%. Then this whole exercise has been successful, right? That's no point we having all the information and then we're not getting involved in transformation. Information must lead to transformation. So you need to see where you are. You've got all the information. Now, how are you going to make that jump? I'm not asking you to overturn your life completely overnight. Just a little bit, twist the angle a little bit, and then a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, until you've made a full circle and the purpose of your life would then be achieved. So, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudamate, Samprapte Sannihite Kale, Nahi Nahi Rakshati Dukrin Karane, Muda Jahi Hidanagamatrishna, Guru Sat Buddhim Manasi Vitrishnam, Yellabashe Nija Karmo Patam, Tam te navinodaya chetam nari sthana bharana bhidesham drishtva maga mohavesham etan mamsavasadi vikaram manasi vichintaya varam varam nalini dalagata jalamati tharalam tatvat jivitamati saya chapalam Vidyadhi abhimanagrastam lokam shokam hatam cha samastam yavat vitto parijana sakta savan nija parivaro rakta paschat jivati jarjara dehe vartam kopina prachati gehe yavat bhavano nivasati dehe Tavat prachati kushalam gehe gatavati vayau deha paye bharya vidyati tasmin kaye balastavat krida shakta tarunastavat taruni sakta vriddhastavat chuta sakta parame brahmani kopi nasakta Kate kanta kaste putra samsaro yamativa vichitra. Kasya tvam ka kutaha yat tattvam chintayata ditha brahat satsangatve nitsangatvam nitsangatve nirmohatvam nirmohatvam nischalatatvam jivan mukti vayasi gate ka kama vikara suske nire ka kasara shine vitte ka parivara jnane tatve ka samsara makurudana jana yauvana garvam harati nimesha kalat sarvam maya maya madamakilam hritva brahmapadam tvam parishavidvetva dinayaminyau sayam pratha sisiravasantau punarayatha kala kridati gachat vayu tadapi namunchat nyasha vayu kate kanta janagata chinta vatula kim tavanasti niyata vijati sajjana sangati reka bhavati bhavar navartarane neka jatilo mundi lunchita kesha kashayambara bahukrita vesha pashyanapi chana pashyati mudo hridaya namittam bahukrita vesha angam galitam palitam mundam dashana vihinam jatam tundam vruddho yati ghrutva dandam tadapi namunchati yasha pildam agre vani prashthe bhanu ratrau chubuk samaprita janu karatala bhikshastarutala vasa tadapi namunchati yasha pasha Gurute Ganga Sagara Gamanam Vrata Paripalanam Athavadhanam Jnana Vihina Sarvamatena Muktim na bhajati Janma Satena Suramandira Tarumula Nivasa Sanya Bhutalam Ajina Nivasa Sarva Parigraha bhoga tyaga kasya sukam na karoti viraga yogaratho va bhogaratho va sangarato va sanga vihina yasya brahmani ramate chittam nandati nandati nandate yeva bhagavad gita kinchita dita ganga jala lavakanika pita Sakradapiyena murari samarcha kriyate yasya yamena na charcha punarapi jananam punarapi maranam punarapi janani jatare sayanam iha samsare bahudustare kripaya pare pahi murare ratya chatpata virachita kanta Punya punya vivarjita panta yogi yogani yojita chitto ramate balo matava deva kastvam koham kutaha yahat kame janani ko me tata iti paribhavya sarvam asaram vishvam tyakta swapna vicharam Vaimai chinya traiko vishnu vyartam kupyasi maya sahishnu bhava samachitta sarvatra tvam vanchasya chiradiyad vishnu tvam satrau mitre putre bandhau ma kuru yatnam vigraha sandhau sarvasminnapi pasyatmanam Sarvatrotsaja Veda Jnanam Bhaja Govindam Seek Govinda Bhaja Govindam Serve Govinda Govindam Bhaja Mudamate Seek and serve Govinda, O fool, O deluded fool. For samprapte sannihite kale, when the appointed time of your death comes, nahi nahi rakshati dukkam karane, all this whatever you have acquired, all the people that you know, all the money that you have, all your vehicles, your cars, your possessions, everything, your titles, your power, nothing will save you. What will save you? Punya karma versus pava karma. Punya, pava, punya, pava. This punya, people are mistaken. They're thinking it's just actions. Punya and papa, good or bad, positive or negative, right or wrong, however you want to, coin the phrase, as it were, right, can come from three sources in every living human being, right? The first source is a thought. Second is words, and third is actions. If you don't think, you just speak. If you don't speak and think, but you just do, get it as well. If you don't speak, just think, also you get it. You understand? You can accumulate karma simply by thinking, not speaking, not doing. You can accumulate karma by simply speaking, not thinking, not doing. Right? Most of the time people speak without thinking. That's why, they say the wrong things. Then they say, oops, slip of the tongue. Tongue has to be controlled, right? And of course, the third way is, if you don't speak, you don't think, but you just do, also you get punya or papa. So very simple. In your thoughts, just think good. In your words, just say good things. In your actions, just do good. Only punya karmas you're accumulating then, Right. Remember, it was only Karna's karma, all the karma that he did, right? The dharma that was sitting on top of the karma is what came to save him at the end of the day, despite the fact that he was on the wrong side of the fence, so to speak, yeah. And that is why he got reprieve from Lord Krishna, who also showed him his Vishwarupam before he gave him, moksha. Right. Then, of course, in the conversation between Krishna and Karna, Krishna says, I can only grant you this if you are willing to give up all the punya karmas that you've done throughout. Karna was a great giver, right? So verse 27 rather, when we talk about dana, giving dana, Karna will be mentioned without fail. So Karna said, yeah, I don't have anything to give you, being in a state that I am, right? On the verge of death. Nalini dalagata jalamati taralam, like that. Life is so precariously. I'm just hanging on a thread. Anytime I can go. So you take all my punya karmas, you take. Taken, I give you. So, verse 26, after the 25th verse, he's nicely bringing us into verse 26. Now he said, Sarvatro Saja, the last verse of verse 25 ends. Sarvatro Saja Veda Jnanam. You have to have the quality of distinguishing, what is good, what is bad, what is right, what is wrong, what is positive, what is negative. Only then you will be able to further go in your life. So, Kamam, Krodam, Lobam, Moham, Tatvatmanam, Bhavaya Koham, Atmajnana Vihina Muda, Ste Pachyante Narakani Guda. Kamam, Krodam, Lobam, Moham, Tatvatmanam, Bhavaya Koham, Atmajnana Vihina Muda, Ste Pachyante Narakani Guda. So, Kama, Kroda, Lobam, Moham. Give up lust, anger, infatuation, and greed. Jyatatmanam bhavaya koham. Think, ponder. Is that really you? All this kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mara, mabara, matsyarya, ahamkara. Ponder over your real nature, your true nature. Atma jnana vihina mura. Those who are not tuning into their self-awareness, their self-consciousness, their self-realization, Muda, they are verily fools, right? And if you don't do that, and when your life ends, te pachyante, if you remain like this, narakani guda, it is to this place that you will end up, and you will suffer there endlessly because you have just wasted this life, right? And that is the truth. So the value of this verse is truth, right? But if you want a sub-value, then I can say it's probably contemplation, looking within. There is a verse or phrase that people use a lot. You know, I'm sure that you have also heard it, right? It's called rat race. Right? So looking within and slowing down, this rat race so-called life. Now, so where can you find God? If your true self is God, then where can you find God? That was a question that was asked. You know, if you are going to look for your true self, then how is God, you know, relevant in this equation? So once Shankara had given a nice satsang to his shishyas, and then he sent them on different errands. And of course, he went into his little hut, you know, the little hut on a little street. When one of his shishyas came back, they saw Shankara looking, you know, frantically looking for something outside the house on the street. So he quickly ran and I said, Acharya, what are you looking for? What are you looking for on the street at this hour? You should be in resting. Shankara said, I remember I dropped, you know, a piece of needle that I was using for something. I dropped it. So the Shishya asked him, where did you drop it? Shankara said, I dropped it near the bed in the hut. So the Shishya was astonished at this strange answer. And he's thinking, Acharya, you said you lost it inside the house. Why are you searching for it outside? And Shankara looked at him and he said, you know, inside the hut, there is no oil left in the lamp. So it's dark inside the house. Hence, I thought of searching it for it outside, since there is a, you know, a street light here and I can see what I'm looking for. The Shishya couldn't hold back his laughter, thinking, is this the great master speaking like this? But he's built up enough courage to say, Acharya, if you lost your needle inside the house, how can you expect to find it outside the house? Shankara smiled and said, that is what is happening around us, isn't it? Shishya, he said, isn't it that you may think my act is puzzling, but I am just acting out what is happening around. Isn't that what we do? We run away to different temples. We walk up mountains in the name of yatras. When we have lost what we found inside, we are looking for it outside. So what we are seeking is lost within us. And just because it's pitch dark inside, we cannot light a lamp of jnana, of wisdom. We go elsewhere where there is enough light. And we think we are doing a great thing, right? So Shishya says, Acharya, what is the lesson for us? He said, you must light a lamp inside and find the lost treasure inside. You perform so many rituals, but you're stuck on the rituals. You don't use the rituals to climb onto the jnana stage. And again, I bring you back to what I said about karma kanda, jnana kanda, right? So rituals are necessary, but they are not the be all and end all, right? That will take you to the end. We perform so many rituals, go on pilgrimages, do so many other things externally in search of God, who is verily resident within us, right? There is a beautiful verse which I cite sometimes in the Bible. It's in the book of Revelations, chapter 3, verse 24. It says, behold, I stand at the door of your heart and knock. If any man should hear my knock and come and open the door to his heart, I shall verily come and reside unto him. So it's not just Shankaracharya who says that, you know, all the great divine souls who have come and gone, right, have said that. Krishna also said that to Arjuna, right? So when sometimes we continue to do the things that we do, right, that means we are going in the opposite direction. You know, law of direction and motion. Direction and motion must be parallel in order for you to get results or consequences. If direction is one way, but motion is another way, right, then you're not going to get. Right? You go to a temple and you ask God, you know, here's a nice tray of fruits, banana, you know, and £5 tip for the you know, for the Pandit. Pandit will go and do archana, you know, all that, and come and give you the tray. And you are thinking, Lord, please do not give me, you know, any disease or whatever your prayer may be, right? Just citing an example. Then outside the temple, you come and you have a stick or two, you smoke. Then when you get lung cancer, you're diagnosed with lung cancer, you run back to the temple and say, how many years have I been coming? Every Tuesday, every Friday, every Saturday, I give you this tray, fruits, coconut. Panditji also made some money from me, and yet you give me cancer. That's when your jnana, wisdom should say, my friend, your direction was one way, your motion was the other way. Naturally, you will suffer the consequences. Right? If direction and motion are going parallel in the same way, then yes. That's why jnana kanda and karma kanda must go hand in hand. Karma kanda must be used to latch onto jnana. If you just go karma will be going, jnana is behind. Then there's nothing to latch. You try to latch, you fall back and you come back. So this rat race, you keep going. The main thing is having the shraddha, the faith, right? So what we need is not objects of desire, but knowledge of our fullness, of ourself, right? Once we understand that we are paripuranaha, we are complete, we will no longer generate thoughts that rush out into the world to acquire things, acquire this, acquire that. We will no longer do that because we think we are complete. And when you think you're complete, or at least you're in that direction, right, you will find that you have less and less wants. So in these 4 lines, the first line of defense is to scan your desires through the medium of your intellect. Once the intellect guides you, streamlines you, directs the desires to lose themselves in the thought process, lose your direction, right? The desires will lose its virulence and it becomes benign. Who gives it, the power of malignancy? You do. So you have the power to make it malignant, no, benign. Then he says, okay, fine. Once you use your intellect, remember I said, substitute your desire with another one. The lower desires with the higher one, lower desires with the higher one. Then the ideal changes little by little, And at some point, you will be able to say no to it straight away, right? This is something called in the law of psychology, it's called PQ, right? Positive quotient. Like IQ, EQ, SQ, MQ, KQ. Now we have PQ, positive quotient, right? So what you should be doing is actually moving away or trying to move away from your niyatama karma, obligatory duties, and steer clear of kamya karma, which is your desire-driven actions. That is what is detrimental to you, right? And whilst you're doing this, you should abstain from nishiddha karma, which is prohibited actions, right? You must continue to perform your niyatama karma, your obligatory duties, but steering clear of kamya karma, which is your desire-driven actions, whilst at the same time you should abstain yourself from nishiddha karma, which is prohibited actions, right? From a conscience perspective, remember conscious, subconscious, superconscious, right? Whatever you want to become, you can only achieve it consciously if it is registered and templated in the subconscious. Because then the subconscious will go and reach out to the superconscious and there will be energies working, right? There will be energies working and you will find that it is easier for you to do it. If you just think you can do it, you won't be able to, because the subconscious and the superconscious are latent. So the idea is to make them patent so they become potent, right? Now, when we make the mind see that the happiness is not lying in the outside, in things we have, in people we know, in positions we hold, and that happiness can become realized by going within, then you will stop chasing money, power, acquisitions, little by little, slowly and slowly it will come to a stop. That's why he's saying, kamam, krodam, lovam, moham, all is stop, right? Know your friends. Swami says, know your friends, but know your enemies better. So who are your enemies? These ashtadoshas. I always talk about these ashtadoshas. Now you should know it by heart, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mara, Mamara, Matsira, Hamkara. 8. Ashtadoshas, right? It's not just Shankara is saying, many have said it. The dancing figure of Shiva, Nataraja, right? If you see this dancing figure of Nataraja, many people have them in their houses. Right, one of the common questions I get asked is, either during Shivaratri or just off the hook. And this was actually asked by the Islamic mullah in Cambridge University during one of our, interfaith discussions. Whatever his aim was, right? For me, I'm thinking it gave me a chance to speak about the greatness of the dharma, of the, Hindu Tattva. So he asked me, he said, how come you all have so many types of gods and goddesses, man, women, and then you'll pray to animals. But I want you to tell me one thing. I've seen, he actually brought a picture, right? He actually brought a picture and he showed me the picture of Nataraja. He says, why is your God, trampling on a little baby? And you explain that. So probably he thought he caught the fish by the hook already, right? But who is behind me? He is always with me, right? What did he say? I said, let me explain to you, right? The figure, not just this figure, any figure you take in Hinduism has a symbolic significance behind it. Like road signs, right? If you see a road sign, then I said to him, I asked him 2 or 3 road signs. He was able to tell. I said, you don't see any words, but just by looking at the road sign, you're able to tell me, this is no entry, this is no parking, this is one way. So when you see the sign, you get a message, isn't it? So when we see this figure, or that figure, or that figure, or the 33,000 other figures, every figure talks to us, because we are pluralistic in that sense. So I said to him, that little figure of a little baby is a little dwarf, an asura dwarf called Apasmara Purusha. Apasmara Purusha represents the 8 cardinal sins of man. This kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mara, mamara, matsira, hamkara. These 8 sins is represented by this, dwarf, asura. And Lord Shiva, by dancing, by trampling on it, he's saying, I have mastered over these 8 desires of kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mara, mamara, matsira. So I can dance the dance of victory. So what is the message for us? Everybody who looks at this statue and sees Shiva dancing on this little baby, know that is not a little baby. Or sometimes, they can come to you looking very nice. That is to attract you. That is desire, trying to attract you. That is Apasmara Purusha. And that is the message for all human beings, all Hindus at least. When you see this, ask yourself, have I controlled all these desires in my life? So that I too can dance the dance of victory. Right? If these desires conquer you, you are in constant cycle of bondage. And we already said, Punarjanmaha, Punarapi Jananam, Punarapi Maranam, Punarapi Janani, Jatare Shayanam, right? If you conquer them, then you are free and rise above your normal self and go into your true self. The choice is yours, right? So try this at home, right? The next 2 hours. I want you to try this. Wear a shoe size that is 1 size smaller than your usual size. I don't know if you have or not, but if you have, it's good, And children also should try it if they have. Ask your children to try and then talk to them about it afterwards. 2 hours, wear a shoe size that is 1 size smaller than your usual size. And after 2 hours, remove it and then see what your thought process is. What is the first thought or sensation that comes when you remove this after 2 hours? Okay, if you tell me you don't have small size shoes, I can't do this. I give you another thing. Definitely you'll have this in your house. Every single person, right? Tie a chair or a suitcase, empty one, right? Tie a chair or a suitcase to your leg and walk around your house, again for 2 hours, doing the things that you usually do. And then after 2 hours, take it off and go through your feelings, your thoughts. What are the things you feel? That is what freedom from bondage will feel when you're no longer, caught and held back, tied down by your desire-driven actions. And Swami says, isn't it? Beautifully, he says, we are the makers of the chains that bind us. So you want to experience freedom? Try the shoe or the chair or the suitcase test for 2 hours and then see what the feeling is. It's elation, the feeling of elation. The sensation is just great. Try it and then you'll know. If just the material freedom is so much, can you imagine if I have freedom from the cycle of life and death, right? So I'll tell you the story. So it's a rat race, isn't it? You have to stop, slow down, think. So sometimes God will do certain things that to others and to you on first impression will say, God, you are Karunamurti. You are the ocean of compassion. How can you do this? Okay, so there was this man. He'd bought a brand new car, brand new Jaguar, right? I was feeling so good to drive it around, right? He was driving through a particular street, some houses, little houses here and there. And suddenly he found the car hit by a brick. Just somebody had thrown a brick. The car came to a screeching halt. He came out and then he saw a boy, some, 50, 60 yards away, just waiting as though he was. But, the driver could see clearly that he's the one who threw the brick. And of course, it's a brand new shining car. Now it's got a dent just below the driver's door. So he ran to this fellow and said, "What were you thinking about? This is a brand new car. You know how many thousands I paid for this, blah, blah, blah." The boy was actually trembling. He said, "I am very, very sorry, sir." When he pointed to something, and then the man turned to look at what the boy is pointing at, it was another slightly older boy who had fallen off his wheelchair, right, into a little ditch by the side of the road. The boy said, "Sir, my brother is there. He's I can't pull him up. I didn't know what to do. I stopped so many cars. Nobody wanted to stop. This was the only way I could stop. I'm so sorry. Please help me. So of course, this guy didn't know what to do. That feeling when you suddenly realize something and you're totally in a different state of mind, that is called paradigm shift. Right? Paradigm shift. Sometimes when you see and you think, "Whoa, how can this be?" And then when you know the situation, you automatically change. It's completely, the pendulum shifts to the other side. That is called paradigm shift, right, in psychology. Anyway, he went. He saw that the boy had no legs. And this boy was too young to lift his older brother up. So he was trying to get help. Everybody was whizzing fast and whizzing past. Fast and past. We are going through life. So he helped that boy. Put him in the chair, help this boy, get back into composure. Didn't say a word. Went back to his car, continued driving. Many, many years, he never ever repaired that dent in his car because he always wanted to remember that incident. But he stopped driving fast. So something good came out of it. Now, this story is called the brick. Okay. Sometimes God has to throw a brick at us to make us stop, think, and have a paradigm shift. Don't go through life so fast that he has to throw a brick to get your attention. Don't go through life so fast that God has to throw a brick to get your attention. The learning is God whispers in our souls and speaks to our hearts. Everybody has said, if you have time to talk, I have time to listen. Whether it's an Acharya or whether it's a Guru or whether it's an avatar. Right? Whenever anybody wanted to talk to Krishna, right? He always had time. He never said, "You must make an appointment." Draupadi wanted to talk, he will show himself. Arjuna wanted to talk, he will show himself. Karna wanted to talk, he will show himself. Bhishma wanted to talk, he'll show himself. Right? Vidura wanted to talk, he'll show himself. Kunti wants to talk, he'll show himself. So remember that. Don't wait for God to throw a brick into your life simply to get your attention. Right? Sometimes we don't have time to listen. When we don't have time to listen, that is when the bricks will come. He'll throw a brick. It's our choice to listen or not. So let's slow down and see, look out for others on our way, see what we can do. Right? So you got to look at life from this paradigm shift, But some people, they can never look at things because they are so closed in their thinking, right? So I'll tell you another story about these two fellows who went hunting, right? Two guys used to go bird hunting, but one fellow was very positive, the other fellow was completely negative, right? So the attraction is there, negative and positive, right? Because positive and positive will deter each other, negative will each other, but positive and negative, yeah, So the positive guy, he found a dog that could hunt birds, they go with dogs. So when they shoot the birds, then the dogs will run and pick the birds. But this dog had the gift of walking on water. Right? So he wanted to show off this dog to his friend. So when they went hunting, He shot, he said, let's go near the river, and he shot. The bird fell on the river. The dog walked on the river, picked the bird, and came back. Very good. Second time, same thing happened. Third time, same thing happened. And then, the positive guy, he asked his negative, haven't you noticed anything about my new dog? You haven't said anything at all. He said, you know what? I noticed that your dog cannot swim. This is how negative people think. They are so one-track minded, right? And that's how they look at life as well. Their view and vision of life, their glasses through which they look at the life is completely, cloudy. You have to clear the glass of all the dust, wipe it clean, then they can see clearly. So, have you missed the point? That's the point of the story is, have you missed the point? Like this negative guy who said, look, he didn't know that the dog had the beautiful gift of walking in water, but yet he said, your dog cannot swim, man. He can't do anything, So how do you respond? What you should be thinking about is, how do you respond or react when you experience something that is outside your normal frame of reference? That's what you think. How do you respond or react when you experience something that is outside your normal frame of reference? Because they say if you don't know, means it's wrong because you don't know it. So something for you to think about. Wonder, right? A dog had the wonderful gift, but he said the dog had a clear disability. It couldn't swim. Right? So that is verse 26. Right? 27 is even more powerful. It tells you the actual how. Right? Why we are failing. 26. 27, how we can stop failing. See? Question, answer. Right? Problem, solution. Deyam Gita Nama Sahasram, Deyam Sripati Rupa Majasram, Neyam Sajjana Sattam Singhe, Deyam Dina Janai Chavittam. Deyam Gita Nama Sahasram, Deyam Sripati Rupa Majasram, Neya Sajjana Sanghe Chittam, Deyam Dina Janaya Chavittam. Deyam Gita. Regularly recite the Gita, regularly recite. How little doesn't matter. Remember the story I told you 2 weeks ago? Geyam Gita, Nama Sahasram. Repeat 1,000 names of Lord Vishnu. Right? Both you have got from one source, that is the Bhagavad Gita and the Vishnu Sahasranam. You've got from one source called the Mahabharata. Right? Deyam Sripati Rupa Majasram. Take delight in the form of Vishnu. Sripati. Sri is Lakshmi, Pati is Vishnu, right? Sripati, Rupa Majasram. Take delight in the form of Lord Vishnu. Neyam Sajjana Sangye Chittam. Always try and keep with the noble and holy people. Sajjana Sangye Chittam. Because, I told you, HEPs, remember many weeks ago? Highly empowered people. This is your Sangha that you should keep, right? Deyam Dina Janaya Chavittam. Distribute your wealth. Give charity to the poor and the needy. This is very important. To the poor and the needy. To the poor and the needy. You work out the definition, right? Whether what you're doing is currently going to the poor and the needy, right? Then you can work out. So what is the value? Right conduct. Right conduct. Sub-value. Sharing, caring, giving charity. You can interpret it like that, right? So this verse actually deals with something that we refer to as Bhairanga Sadhana. Bhairanga Sadhana. External spiritual disciplines that will sharpen your internal spiritual outlook. External spiritual disciplines that will sharpen and chisel your internal spiritual experience. This is called Bhairanga Sadhana. Okay? Got 4 disciplines here. And this is what he's talking about, right? Intellectual, emotional, physical, and material. Okay, so these are the 4 things that this verse talks about. So the first one is intellectual. He says, Gayam Gita Nama Sahasram. So Bhagavad Gita and Sahasranama should be recited, right? If you don't want to learn any other mantra at all, right? There are many. You see, this is why the religion is so great, right? It gives you so many pathways. All you have to do is need one pathway. Right? There's so many mantras, too many mantras. There is no rule to say that you only qualify if you know 1,200 mantras. You qualify when you know one mantra and you recite it by heart. And you recite it by heart, you practicalize that mantra in your life. Right? Vishnu Sahasranama or Lalita Sahasranama. These two things can take you across the ocean of samsara. You don't need anything else, right? There are many in your choice at the end of the day, right? And I've mentioned this before. You go to a buffet restaurant, even though there are 25 dishes there, the 25 dishes is what attracted you to that place in the first place. Hey, 25 dishes, must go and try. But when you go there, you will only eat 3 or 4 because you like them. So what happened to the other 80? They are just to attract the vasanas, the moha vasanas, and say, man, look, 25, come, I'm sure, you know, your lobha, your greed is there, come. But I know you'll only eat this or that or the other. Okay, so Bhagavad Gita and Nama Sahasram, right? Vishnu Sahasranama must be chanted on a daily basis or regularly, right? Regularly. It means Vedantic principles codified in them should be studied and reflected upon and imbibed and lived in. Then yes, right? Remember I said even singing bhajans, bhajana, janana, manana, tarana, then only it's become fruitful. So it's not mere knowledge of the principles. You have to apply them. That is the intellectual bit, right? The intellectual discipline requires application, not just recitation, right? Then the second is something called emotional, right? Dheyam rupam sripati. You have to meditate on the form. So this is going into Raja Yoga or Dhyana Yoga, right? This is the devotional aspect of the spiritual practice, right? When you do that, it says through that you should also develop gratitude. You know, but the main common error that human beings make is, I don't have this, I don't have that, I don't have this, and I don't have the other. They have never said, I have this, I have this, I have this, I have this, I have this. I have enough. So if you focus on what you don't have, that is the allergy you're creating, and that is what you'll experience. If you focus on what you have and you're happy with what you have, then happiness is what you will experience. Again, the choice is yours. You know, we cannot blame any other person. Not your husband, not your wife, not your daughter, not your son, not your father, not your mother, not your grandfather, grandmother, uncle, auntie, nephew, niece. Nobody. Yourself. Always question yourself, right? How much of gratitude have you got? You know. So if you are constantly hooked on that, I have this, I have this, I have this, I have this, then that changes your focus from one of deprivation or deprivation to one of acknowledgement and one of gratitude. And that changes your life. It becomes more abundant. And once you live on the wings of sufficiency, then your spirituality will start to fly. It lends you a sense of peace as a result. Right? The third discipline is physical. Now we looked at intellectual, spiritual, physical, and the last one is material. Physical is, you know, the mind is vulnerable to external influences, especially in the initial stages of your spiritual pursuit. Goes. Remember the story I said, you can control your mind through regular practice, through regular command. Remember the girl in the donkey story? She kept hitting it until whatever you put before the goat, it never ate. Until the little girl said, you can eat now. You too can bring your mind. See, if we can control animalistic senses in animals outside of us and bring them to one state of performance, you know, whether it's a monkey or a donkey or a goat or a lion or an elephant in the circus rings, so much of training they've gone through. Why can't we do something that we ourselves possess inside of us? Very simple question, right? The last one is, of course, material. That's the last line. Deyam dina jaya vittam. Dana, give dana. Dhana and dhana, I've spoken about this as well, right? Dhana, you know, and dhana. Dhana is charity, dhana is wealth. Only in the giving of charity, dhana, you attract dhana. It is only through an attitude of service that you can get experience. Hence, you have karma yoga as one of the pathways, right? So it's a process of tuning up. That, verse 27 focuses on how you can tune up. Remember, 26 spoke about the problems. So 27 actually gives you the inroads onto how you can tune yourself up. Yayam Gita, recite the name, Namasastram, Deyam Rupam Sripati, look at the form. And then, of course, give charity. When you want to observe a very small particle under a microscope, do you just put the thing and just see, you can see? No. The microscope has to be used properly in order for you to see what you have put under the glass. So you need to put that thing in there, and you need to look at your eyes, and you need to tune, right? And when you want to look at the distant object through a telescope, you got to tune. When you have this, what do you call them? Binoculars, right? You want to look at something near, you tune. You want to look at something far, you tune. In order to tune, that microscope becomes useless if you don't tune it, right? Similarly, in your attempt to look at Brahman or God, the self, which is what you want to attain, which is what you want to know, then what you got to do is tune. All your personality, all your traits, all your characters, all your thoughts, all your words, all your actions, you have to tune, just like you tune the microwave, look far, look near. You have to tune your thoughts, you have to tune your words, you have to tune. How is the question you ask? Okay, Rupa, Nama, Gita. So all these are different ways, And Swami has said, in this Kali Yuga, the easiest way is Nama Smarana. Just repeat his name all the time, everywhere. Doesn't matter. Do you know, so many times I have been caught off guard. Even when I speak to professors, I'm so used to saying it that I say Sai Ram to them. So once, I was talking to this professor in LSE, and he asked me, why do you always say that word when you end? I said, sorry, it's unconsciously, now I'm saying it. But I don't want to stop it because it's a good thing, Rather than saying something like, I don't know, for example, right? A damn it or bloody hell or whatever the case may be, right? Sai Ram. So when I finish my conversations with my colleagues, I say Sai Ram to them. This professor, once I explained to him what it means and all of that, now he tells me Sai Ram. Can you imagine? That little thing done so regularly that unconsciously you start to do it, So you see, it does work. So once Narada went to Narayana, went to see him. Of course, Narada Maharishi, he always says Narayana, 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 Narayana. He never says anything else apart from when he talks, right? But every single opportunity he gets, he says Narayana, Narayana, Narayana. So Narayana said, come, Narada, come. Then he spoke to him for 2 minutes. Then he asked, you say my name so many times, but you chant my nama. You are in a state of smarana with my nama. So nama smarana. But do you know the taste of my name? Do you know what you get when you say my name? Narada says, sorry, I just say it because it's your name. I have never thought this is the reason why I say it, or that is the reason why I say it. So Narada says, okay, you see the Buloka, you see the earth there, you see this particular tree in this place, there's a crow there, right? Go and ask the crow. Tell the crow, Narayanaya Namaha, and then ask what it means. The crow will tell you. So of course he's curious to know. So he goes to the crow and he says, Narayanaya Namaha, and the crow dies. But before the crow dies, it says, go to that place, there's a parrot sitting in there, ask the parrot. Then the crow dies. Narada was saying, what is this? So he still goes because he wants to know, right? He goes to the parrot. Sees the parrot, beautiful parrot there. He's Narayanaya Namaha. Can you tell me what it means? The parrot says, there is a new calf being given birth to, right? Go and ask that calf, and then the parrot dies. So now this fellow was really curious. Narada was thinking, what is happening? But he still goes. He goes to the nearby stable where, the cow is giving birth and a beautiful calf is born. So he waits for the calf to, get onto its feet. And then he tells the calf, Narayanaya Namaha, Narayanaya Namaha. The calf says, go to the king's palace. The prince has been born and he's being, there's some ceremony there. Go and ask the prince. And the calf dies. Now, this is the king's newborn prince. After many years of tapasya, the king has been, gifted with a baby boy, the prince. Now they're having some ceremony for him. And Narada thinking, if I go and ask the king, and the prince dies, just like how the crow, the parrot, the calf all die, surely he's going to deal with me in a different way. But he says, no, my Narayana is there for me. I will go anyway, right? Despite the doubt, you see, two things were working here. One is his doubt whether what the king will do to him if the prince dies. The other is the faith in Narayana that he will look after. So whenever you're in a state of doubt and faith, give credence to your faith. Because most of us give credence to a doubt and put the faith somewhere where it doesn't work. And then we say, I trusted you. Nothing happened. God didn't do anything. Right? You're sorely mistaken. So anyway, he went to the king's palace. Of course, everybody knows Narada Maharishi. So they said, come, it's great to have a rishi of your caliber visitors, blah, blah, blah. And then, the king is watching. All the soldiers are there. Narada goes to the prince. And he says, Narayanaya Namaha. Can you tell me what it means? Then the boy spoke. The prince spoke. He says, you first asked me this question when I was a crow. But the moment I heard the name, my life left me and I became a parrot. The moment you came to the parrot and you said, Narayanaya Namaha, again, my life left me and I became a calf. When you came to the calf, I became a prince. And when you asked me this, my life mission is fulfilled simply by chanting God's name. We go to a higher state of consciousness. That is why from a crow, an ugly crow, right, I went to a higher state of a beautiful parrot. From a beautiful parrot to a calf. My God, next to human being, only cows are given this status. So I went to that status where even when I died there, I became a human being. And the birth of a human being is the stage before you reach, Manusha. As I said, the next stage is Purusha, right? Manusha Janma Durlabham. It is great to get the birth of a human being. So simply by reciting God's name, can you imagine how much more you will get? If by listening to God's name, people can jump from one life to another, life to another, life to another, and they can, see their purpose of life being fulfilled, then reciting God's name. Wow, fantastic, So never think that, God will forsake you at any point in time, right? If you're going through something, it is to make you stronger. Like I always say, if God puts you through something, he will make you go through it. If he takes you to it, he will take you through it, right? If he takes you to it, he will take you through it. That's it. That's all you need to know, right? If we have love, if we have faith, if we have devotion, we can reach the higher states of consciousness, right? Hearing the name of the Lord, the crow became a parrot, the parrot became a calf, the calf became a prince, and of course the prince was living in such a state where, the next stage is Purusha. This is just by listening to the name. And here Shankara is saying, Yayam Gita Nama Sastram Rupam Shripati Rupam Ajastram. Right? So if you learn to listen to the name of the Lord, right? This is Shravanam, right? One of the first part of Navaveda Bhakti, Shravanam. Then what about uttering Lord's name? Kirtanam. When you listen and you utter, then you go to the third stage, Nitya Smaranam. Wow, fantastic. So what he's saying is, hear the Gita, see the form, repeat the name, keep good company, give charity. And all that can be coined into what he says. Help ever, hurt never. Love all and serve all. There was another king called Ranti Deva, right? And he was a very good king, very dharmic, and once his kingdom was hit with a very bad draft. And he had dissolved all his wealth, entire kingdom, to give everything for the sake of his people, his subjects, his Jana, right? He was like Janaka a little bit, right? But Janaka was Raja Rishi. This king was a king, but a dharmic king. Now, even when he wanted to eat, before he ate, he made sure everybody had eaten. So he became downsized. Obviously, when you give everything away, you become, Vishnu came to test him towards his last stages. Right? Vishnu came in disguise once before he was going to have just bread. All that he had was just bread before he could feed his family. First, someone came as a guest and they said, we've just come into this city and we've realized that there's nothing here. We are going to go back, but before we go back, we want to eat something. Is there something I can give? So he gave his bread, or part of his bread. Then another Brahmin came after he left and said, Bhiksham dehi me, Bhiksham dehi me. Right? King gave the other part of the bread. And then finally a Chandala came. Chandala is one of the beggars, a rustic from a little village. He came and the king gave away all the little food he had. So when the Chandala went, Vishnu appeared before the king and he says, Rantideva, I was the one who came as a guest. I was the one who came as the Brahmin, and I was the one who came as the Chandala, the most downtrodden, untouchable. So you see, God is telling you, don't discriminate, don't distinguish, because I can be that, and I can be that, and I can be that, right? And this is beautifully explained in the Purusha Shuktam. Brahmano syamukamasit bahu rajanyakritaha. Like that, they classify the different varnas on the form of God. That is why Shankara is saying, look at the form of God. You can't just see the head and not look at everything else. You have to look from head to toe. And the head to toe has been classified. This is Shudra, this is Vaishya, this is Kshatriya, this is Brahmana. So what can you take away from the whole form? The form comes as one. So as a human being, you are one. Unconditional love. When you say, no, you belong to this caste, what does he say? He says there is only one caste, the caste of humanity. You say, but I am religion, you're one religion, religion of love. There you go. He's given everything singularly, but we are making it plural, right? So service to man is service to God, very simply, right? Serving the needy, giving charity, to those who need is what we should be looking at, Very beautifully, Vivekananda says this, right? He says, where can we go to find God if we cannot find him in our own hearts and in the hearts of other living beings? Superb. Where can we go to find the God if that God is living within us and we can't see him? We can't see him living within us. We are definitely not going to see him living in other people's hearts. So Shankara says, look within first. You can't find it inside, don't bother finding it outside. Remember Shankara looking for the needle outside. Shishas are laughing at him. He says, this is what you fellas are doing. Right? God is within, but you off the light and you go and seek outside. Right? It is bright. You're not going to find him. Right? Ramana Maharishi said, one should not use the name of God mechanically or superficially without injecting the serum of devotion. To use the name of God, one must call upon him with a yearning, unreservedly. That's a beautiful song, isn't it? Beautifully sung. So many people have sung it. Achyutam Keshavam Krishna Damodaram Ramanarayanam Janaki Vallavam Kaun kehte hai Bhagwan aate nahi Tum meera ki jaise bulate nahi. How more simpler and how more beautifully or eloquently can this message be given to you? Oh fool, oh man, oh deluded fool, Muda mate. Shankara says. Ramana Maharishi says. Vivekananda says. It can't be wrong when so many people say the same thing, albeit in a different way. Right. So, verse 28. Sukatha kriyate Rama bhoga paschat dante sarire roga yadyapi loke maranam sharanam tadapina munchati papa charanam. Sukatha kriyate Rama bhogam paschat danta sarire roga Yat yapi loke maranam sharanam tadapi namunchati papa charanam. He who yields to lust or pleasure leaves his body prey to disease and continuous cycle of birth and death. Though death brings an end to everything, the man does not give up his sinful path. Tadapina munchati papa charanam. He continues to engage. So the value is truth again. This is the truth, but why will he continue doing it? There should be some optimism. Sub-value, if you want, perhaps perseverance or awakening, self-realization, right? Sometimes we have to do certain things that even though to others it might look silly, foolish, not very intelligent, don't worry, because that's your journey. You have to do it. It doesn't matter whether they are your husband, your wife, your child. No. That is a duty that you have to do as a husband, as a wife. But your spiritual path is your spiritual path. There is no two-ness in the spiritual path which is singular. Right? Your path is your path. Husband's path is husband's path. Wife's path is her child's path, like that, so on and so forth, so on and so forth. Right? So Shankara, in this, he's telling you, the essence of this verse is how a common man exhausts himself and squanders his precious opportunity of human life without recognizing and appreciating its true value. So he asks you to observe. He says there are millions of species in the entire universe, but none as unique as the human being. Right? Therefore, he says, Jantunam narajanma duralabham. He says the birth of a human being is a rare privilege. Therefore, you should enjoy it and use it to go to a higher state. After Manusha, I told you there is nothing else. Deva then Purusha, That's it. So, when the knowledge of the great masters like Adi Shankaracharya knocks at your door, we should become alert. We should awake. We should listen. And we should use the information to transform, put it into practice, and see where it can take us. It's not just to live a mundane life of eating, growing, going through the motions, going to school, going to university, getting a job, doing the job, and that's it, you die at the end. No, I've always said to you, almost every week when I'm doing this, I've asked you to examine what is the true purpose of your life. There are 4 yoga margas: bhakti yoga, jnana yoga, karma yoga, dhyana yoga. Which is your path? Choose one and do it well. George Bernard Shaw said, anything worth doing is worth doing well. Right? But man instead gets carried away in material and sensual pleasure, becomes victim to diseases, not just physically, but also mentally, so that in the pursuit of temporary happiness, he loses the permanent happiness. Therefore, he's derailed of the real purpose of his journey in this samsara. And life goes on and he dies, rebirth, he dies, punarjannaha, punarapi maranam, punarapi jananam, right? So listen, when the thing comes, at that time, if you don't grab it, opportunity, you lose it. I'll tell you a story of a tiny frog. Tiny frog. You look at frogs and think they are waste to human life, right? To the flora and fauna of the world. The frogs have their own role to play, right? Anyway, there was an ambitious group of tiny frogs, and they saw this mountain, and between themselves they talked and say, hey, let's see who can climb this mountain. Right? Everyone went to the base of the mountain, and one group of frogs said, no, we are not going to climb this, right? But we will, wait here and we will cheer you guys. Let's make it as a race, right? Then the winner will get, 1 week's food brought to him so that he doesn't have to go and hunt for food. So they said, okay, so one group of frogs remained there cheering the others. Then the others started to climb. Okay. Once they started to climb, that group that was there at the bottom who's meant to cheer these fellows who are climbing, they started to say, oh, look, that hill is too high. These fellows are not going to make it, They will not do it. They are not prepared. They have not trained. Complete negativity was being. And they said they will remain behind to cheer them up. And this is what they do. This is real life. Practicalize it. You'll know what I'm talking about. No chance. These fellows will never survive. That tree is too high. That mountain is, that hill is, all kinds of negativity. One by one, the frogs began collapsing from the hill they were trying to climb, right? One by one. Except for one tiny frog. It was continuing to go. Whatever was being said down, it was continuing to go. Even though someone was saying, look, there's only one fellow now, anytime he's going to drop off. Yes, yeah, he'll drop off, he'll drop off, he'll drop off, he'll drop off. But it managed to climb to the edge of the, or to the top of the hill. It became the winner. And then the leader of the frogs went to ask this frog, how come, despite all that was being said, you managed to climb the hill without any problem? Of course, you put in the effort, but how did you manage to do it? So asked so many times, the frog did not respond. In the end, they realized the frog was actually deaf. The winner, the frog, was deaf. So what is the lesson for you? The lesson for you is sometimes in life you must carry on, but you must become deaf to what others around you are saying. Then your own journey gets completed. If you get caught in what A is saying, or B is saying, or C is saying, or D is saying, then your life is Govinda, Govinda. Right? Always be positive. PMA, positive mental attitude. Right? Don't listen to others. Don't give permission to others. Don't give permission to others to take your most wonderful dreams away from you. No one else you can blame except yourself. Be deaf to the negative belief. Be deaf to the negative comments. Be deaf to the negative criticisms of others. Believe in yourself and be like that tiny frog. Whatever come what may, I have a vision. My focus is there. Single-minded devotion. And you'll end up there. You might just make it to the top when you become deaf to everybody else's comments. That is self-confidence. Right? Self-confidence, what is it? It is knowing that you have the capacity to do something good and firmly deciding not to give up but continue. Dalai Lama said that. That is self-confidence. You have to grow from inside out, not outside in. Right? None can teach you, none can make you spiritual except you yourself, because your true God lives within you. Those who say it cannot be done are usually interrupted by others doing it. Famous, motivational quote. Those who say it cannot be done are usually interrupted by others doing it. So firmly decide not to give up. Once Guru Nanak was invited to a house, Nanak ji, right? This person's name was Kaladi Ram. So Nanak, obliged, he went in there, and he was knocking on the door for a long time. The door was not opened. After about 15-20 minutes, Nanak was still there knocking, This Kaladi Ram opened the door and he says, sorry, sir, I didn't realize you were out here for so long. So Nanak ji naturally asked, what were you doing inside? You couldn't hear me. He said, I had some free time, so I was just, knocking some nails into the walls. He said, what? You were knocking nails into the wall? Life has so much more to offer. And he said, follow me. Kaladi Ram followed him. And of course, he spent the rest of his time with Nanak, and he became one of Nanak's strongest disciples. He practiced all the spiritual instructions given, and he knew how he had wasted his life and complete transformation simply by following the commands of the Guru. Guru Charanam Bhuja Nirbhaya Bhakta. The last verse 31, I'll be telling you that. Right? So the sweet, merciful voice of the Guru can come in many ways. What are you doing? Where are you going? Why are you doing this? How? When? What? Who? Where? Sometimes that's what we are doing. We are just driving nails into empty walls, still hopelessly sunk in the quagmire of the samsara. Quagmire of the samsara. Still wasting life, eating, drinking, sleeping, doing all the normal things, playing, merrymaking. These 4 months, you ask yourself this question, right? The time for reflection, a solid reflection it is. This 4 months of lockdown, what have you been up to? How have you improved yourself? No, physically, not physically. No, physically also, yes, right. But spiritually. 4 months, 4 solid months that you would not have otherwise got. This is nature, God giving you a gift. Right? When we are at work, we always complain, I wish I had some time at home. Now you're at home, you're saying, oh my God, when am I going to go back to work? See, this is human life. You can never satisfy them. Right? So, God comes and goes in different ways. Right? So, watch your attitude, because that's what gives you the magnitude Watch your attitude, because your attitude gives you the magnitude to get the aptitude to send you to an altitude. Sai Ram.